Wow, I've got Fred Vereen here on the line. Hey, Fred,
Hey, Bill.
listen, I can't tell you how thrilled I am that you're taking time to talk about Lawrence Neighbors Together. You were there at the beginning, so you've seen our project evolve over the last year or so. So we're going to have a little chat here and open up some ideas so that our viewers can get the perspective of a person who has been on the ground, engaged in Lawrence for many years. And you've heard me say, I'm sure, you've taken note that in public gatherings, I have referred to you as the Dean of Lawrence Township. And what I mean is the Dean, in terms of the pioneers for the questions of racial justice and equity, fair housing, a myriad of other things. You can't really talk about these things over the last virtually half century without Fred Vereen Jr. Being mentioned. So, do you mind that I refer to you as the dean?
That's probably all right. That's better than being called some of the other names I have.
Hey, we're not going there. Okay. Well, listen. What is some of your? Well, first of all, you've told me in the past when you came to Lawrence, but I'm wondering, like, what are some of your earliest memories of being in the township?
Well, I think Bill, it's to see how the township has changed. It's especially where I live, and it's really um, the physical conditions, um, the environment, uh, the people, even the people walking down my street.
Mm-hmm.
At one time, not only was this the worst section of Lawrence Township, but it was an all-black community. And but now to see Chinese, uh, Spanish, and white people walking up down my street, I look out the window and I said, "Wow, what a change!" Um, but even to when I go to the other parts of the township to see black people walking through those streets,
Mm-hmm.
um, it, it's um, it's really become a real diverse township. Not and it's the environment, the streets, the housing condition. Um, to have been here and then grew up here as a child and then see the the real change. It's really rewarding and it makes you feel good.
Well, now you know that we have discovered very wonderful people who've lived in Lawrence for some time who, since they become a part of Lawrence Neighbors Together, we've learned they really didn't know about your community. So we have to call it out. We're
Hmm.
talking about Edgar's Crossing, yes?
Right, right.
And
Yeah,
have you noticed that there are people who really go right on Edgar's Crossing Road, but they don't understand there is a community, a long-standing community, Edgar's Crossing, and that's the community that you're referring to primarily.
right, right. Yes, even even today, there's I come across people who have been here 20, 30 years and that don't know Agus Crossing exists. And that's one of the things that I tell people that not only do I want people to know about Agus Crossing the way it is now, but I want people to know where it came from, what it was years ago, and
Mhm.
what it took to get it into what you see today. Um, and the community, and that's the reason I really like what's happening with LNT, Launch Neighbors Together, is that the same people who are getting involved with that is the same people, uh, not the same people, but the same people who had an interest in their community and interest in improving the lives of others that got involved with us back in the 50s and 60s to improve the condition of Eggers Crossing. And
So,
that,
so in other words, it's not the same individuals, but people who care, the same orientation toward community improvement and so forth.
right, right. And,
Well,
and,
but go ahead.
and that, that's what it takes. You know, people want to feel good about what they're doing.
Hmm.
And I, you know, the only time you'll see people when there's a disaster, people will flock to see what they can do and help. It's it's the same thing when you have problems and concerns and interests in your immediate community. People want to help and they want to feel good about what they're doing and,
Hmm.
and what they've done and what they've accomplished. And we had hundreds of people involved with us through the years to improve the conditions of our community. And the other thing, when we got involved, when we started, we said, you know, there's many issues. There's not just um, housing. If you're going to deal with housing, you got to deal with education.
Hmm.
You got to deal with the social aspect. You got to deal with employment, underemployment, and we tackled all those issues at the same time. And that, and again, that's what LNT is doing. You know, it's not just one issue of today. There's many issues that affects the lives of people, and you know, I feel good about LNT.
Well, but Fred, now you and I go back over 50 years, and I've watched you. I've watched your leadership over all this time, and even when I met you, there had been some progressive changes in Eggers Crossing. But over the ensuing years, as you point out, really dramatic and highly visible changes have taken place. And what happens with you, Fred, is you attract people who recognize your authentic commitment to the community and to positive change, and they roll up their sleeves and join with you. And I've noticed if I talk to you about your accomplishments, it takes a very short time before you begin to tell me about all of these different people along the way, many of whom have passed on, who have been a part of the work. What's your philosophy about that? How you empower others to get involved and work with you on the team?
Well, I I think people soon learn and feel your commitment, and I go into anything I do. Um, you know, when you meet with an, a community organization or a community group, even I've met with some church groups, um, and you venture out into a project and you want to start something, and there's finances or money involved. The first thing they say is, well, where are we going to get the money from?
Mm-hmm.
And I tell them, don't worry about the money. The money will come. If you believe in what you're doing, if there's no self-interest in it,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
your money will come. And
Mm.
and I have, or we have been successful in we started our housing um, development back in the late '60s. We didn't think about money. Um, the neighborhood center. We started with the neighborhood center and in that little church. Um, no money, but we the money came, and we just kept moving, and
Mm-hmm.
you see the results. So if people people know if you're sincere, people know if your community group, your organization is sincere, and they start um, joining in with you, committing themselves, and that's been our success. Is
And you've noticed how when people get involved in something where there's no evident material self-interest, they gain meaning and purpose from that, don't they?
oh they like I say, people want to feel good about uh, what they're involved with. They want
Mm-hmm.
to see an end result, and you know, and they'll fight. They'll continue to fight. Uh, they'll stay involved, and you won't have to coast them to come to meetings.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Uh, we used to, when we were fighting for the housing, we used to meet at 7:30 in the morning. The housing committee, 7:30 in the morning,
Mm.
and people would wanted to meet before they went to church. It's that kind of commitment you get from people when they know that you're sincere in what you're doing.
And then over time, they begin to see the actual fruit of their labor,
Right.
and that gives them even more determination to keep going. Now, in a few days here, we're all going to celebrate your 90th birthday. Wow,
Mm.
that's a big one.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you have gained the license to tell us what is the unfinished business. You've seen so many good things happen, but certainly you must have some thoughts about things we have to that are still left undone.
Well, the thing about it, there's always something to do, always something new to do.
Yes, indeed.
You know,
Yes, indeed.
and the only thing that I I I really want to do, uh, and I know I'll get there, and you've been on my back, and that's to write my memoirs and to
Say that again.
to write my memoirs and to write
Say
the
that again.
to write the book.
All right. That's what I want to be sure. Now it's on the record, Mr. Vereen.
Yeah, of because I want people to see and understand what a community can do, uh, what people can do, uh, and I don't mean just a community like Eggers Crossing, a small community. It's when the total community around you get involved, what they can accomplish, and
Mm-hmm.
that's I want to be able to tell that story from uh, all the folks that got involved, from the businessmen and the men that grew up in this little black community when I was a child or kid, teenager, and how they mentored me. There was 7 black-owned businesses in this little community, and I worked for all of them. And they they didn't have time to go to town hall, town council, and complain about the roads and the street lighting and uh, the substandard housing, even though some of them were living in the substandard housing, including my family. But unbeknown to them or me, it seems like they, along with my father, were preparing me to do just that.
Mm-hmm.
And um, and you know it's amazing. That's what I want to, because I don't know, I really don't know how when I look back, I push myself into uh, that environment. The men, they didn't say, um, Fred Vereen Jr., do you want to come work for me?
Yeah,
Um,
and you never asked them to be your mentor. You
no,
just took advantage of what they were showing you.
right, and what they said to me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's amazing when I look back to the all the men in this community that just um, you know just told me what to do, how to do it, uh,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
corrected corrected me when I said something wrong, and uh, told me when my work wasn't good. Um, so I'm really thankful for that, and it's my way really that's what that 90 years means, uh, and I hope it's 90 plus years.
Yeah,
Um,
you see, you're driven by mission. If anyone asked me to size you up in one word, I would use that. You're a moving target, Fred. I mean, you're engaged in so many different things. For example, if you and I are sitting down over coffee, one of the things you would bring up pretty quickly is the emerging new running club in Eggers Crossing. What is that about? It emanates from Eggers Crossing Village. Every child valued. Why a running club?
well, again, the person who's spearheading that is Chris Woolley. Chris Woolley um, was a teacher or principal in the school system in Lawrence
Oh
Township School,
yes, 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 yes.
and Chris retired. But he was before he retired, he was involved with us and really um, helped us get started with Every Child Value before he moved to Florida, and he still has his house here. But Chris, is a runner himself, and he, uh, he he came to me. He said, "Fred, I want to start a running club and with the kids." And and not only with the kids, but he started it with the from I think it's from 6th grades to 12, and and that was the first 4 weeks, and then he started another 4 weeks with the smaller kids from uh, kindergarten right up to 6th grade. And the good thing about it, Chris will go into the village and knock on doors and um, sign kids up, have the parents sign the waivers, and um, he just puts in time. The other good thing about it, we have two kids who have gone through every child value program, tutoring program, who are, one of them just graduated from College of New Jersey, excelled in track. She also excelled in Lawrence High School in track. And there's a young man, and both of these live in the village. There's a young man who also excels in track, and he will go into his second year in at the College of New Jersey. Chris got these two young people certified as coaches, and they are running. They ran the program, the track program, and that in running the track program, it meant they took the students and the kids over to the track at the College of New Jersey. They did running at Lawrence High School track. They had a competition, and it's learning about uh, exercising, and it's really uh, a good program. It's gotten some of the parents who that we were trying to get into their children into every child value. Uh, we've got some of those parents involved
Mhm.
into the program. So this is the extent uh, of getting people involved in doing what they want to do and what they like to do,
Mhm. Mhm.
and feeling good about what they're doing.
Well, just one more example, and there are many of the kinds of things you do, and of course your interest in Lawrence Neighbors Together always comes back to young people. You always encourage us to engage with young people. Now, do you remember that fateful day? I think it was in March of last year when a few of us sat down for coffee and started on this journey. And we're told that we now have some 200 residents of Lawrence who have signed up to be a part of this work, this sort of community based movement, if you will. What are the challenges, and do you see in Lawrence Neighbors Together the potential of picking up some of these things and moving them forward? What are your hopes and dreams for this effort so far, based on what you've seen?
Well, I think if we the more people we get exposed to Lawrence neighbors, um, the more problems I feel that they're going to bring to us, and,
Mm-hmm.
and it will it will give us an avenue to for discussion on whatever they bring to us. Um, and you you know, as I always say, it's not how old you are or the color of your skin or the language you speak. It's your attitude. And people with this group and with all the groups I've been in always have a positive attitude about what they're doing. And I think I just see if we keep going the way we're going, LNT, um, and keep putting out the word about what we're doing, how we're doing it, our accomplishments, um, we're going to get more people. It's going to be a bigger organization, and we our accomplishments will be out of sight. Um, I can only see us being an example for other communities to tie into what we're doing.
Well, you know, a lot of folk, you could tell at our recent picnic, there were a few additional folk who didn't know about us a short time ago who are coming on board. And a lot of folk in this kind of work, they're sort of new to it. And we're going to feature some of those in these conversations so that we understand what motivated them to get involved, to break ranks with their usual pattern and get involved. But we also wanted to have you speak as a person who's been a veteran on the ground, working, helping to change Lawrence for the better, so that they can be inspired by your endurance and your patience. Because when you get involved in this kind of thing, my grandmother used to say, you could tell when you got no resistance to what you were doing, it meant you weren't doing very much. So
Right.
when you undertake these projects related to human need, you're going to always have some resistance. So maybe you can say a word or two as we close about the kinds of things that you've seen in that regard. We know that there have been improvements, but we don't want to make it sound like it was all peaches and cream.
Yeah. Well, I think one thing is uh, we can relate to is the master plan, which is um, you know being discussed today. Um, and the town was developing the master plan in 1965, and they at that time there wasn't. We were still Eggers Crossing was still dirt roads and um, people living in substandard housing, and the railroad tracks was still in existence, and it was being used. I mean, the trolley went out in 1941, but uh, they were still using the railroad tracks to take coal up to Lawrenceville fuel because uh, most families, or a lot of the families, were still using coal in the township. I mean, oil hadn't really, or gas really hadn't, been really developed into most homes. And there were still farmlands, and there was a uh, uh, feed mill on Lawrence Pennington Road that they used to bring up a feed for the cattle and the farms. And the township on Eggers Road, right in front of the neighborhood, the community center, all that land was vacant. There was many acres back there, and the township wanted to put light industry there, and in the master plan. And we said, our community, the Eggers Crossing Civic League, said, no, we don't want light industry there, because if you put light industry back there, adjacent to our community, we will never be able to develop our community.
Mm-hmm.
And it, that was a fight, and they wouldn't take it out of the master plan. And we always supported the Democratic Party during that time, and we told them, if you didn't take it out of the plan, um, we were not going to vote for you. And make a long story short, we worked and voted for the other party and put the Democrats out of office. And even though it was in the plan, um, it never happened.
There's
Uh,
no light industry in Eggers Crossing today.
right. That if they had put light industry back there, Eggers Crossing would not look like it does today.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And probably we wouldn't have, probably would not have been able to build the neighborhood center right across the street, and the village probably would have never gotten the village.
And what's happening with the railroad track bed today? I know when I go down Johnson Avenue, for example, I see a whole different feel to that plot of land. What's there now?
Well, it became it right now. It's a beautiful walking path,
Yes,
tree line walking path, and people use it uh, all the time. Uh, Walking right up, it goes all the way up to it in the back of Rider College. So it's used, and it's a beautiful addition to our community.
but the point that you're making is there had to be a real fight, a real struggle to achieve this result.
That's right.
And
You know,
I think you to be perfectly honest with our audience, we want them to get involved with us, but every now and then um, we're going to meet some difficulty, and we have to be prepared to work beyond that. I can tell you, you've told me many stories about committed individuals in Lawrence who worked with you who wound up being disillusioned because they thought their friends were oriented in ways that they found they were not. So I wanted to have us highlight this as one of the fruits of our conversation because it is a part of this kind of work. Yes.
that's right. That's right. And the hardest uh, job that we had was when we were building the housing. Just I'll give you a little brief. Um, uh, I won't go into much of the detail, but just to give an example of
But
people
you're speaking now of Eggers Crossing Village, correct?
of the village. Yes,
Yes.
when we first started with the village, we had some social organizations. We needed sponsors, and we had some social organizations who were very much involved uh, outside of Eggers Crossing. And of course, we had two or three churches that were involved, and one guy who was one man who was one of part of this social organization was Bill McGrath, who owned McGrath's Pharmacy, and he and I became friends, and they were they were willing to be a sponsor of Eggers Crossing Village, of Lawrence Nonprofit Housing, uh, and but until um, we started having planning board meetings, and the town got all up in the air against everything. They they didn't want those people from Trenton coming out here. They figured they had enough black people living in Lawrence, and Bill was so shocked at his his friends in his social organization that he told me. He said, "Fred, I can't stay here." He said, and I have to leave because he said all these guys were my friends, and I thought they thought this differently about people. And Bill sold his pharmacy and moved to Georgia. And I can name many others who lost a lot uh,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and that were committed to providing decent housing for people. So they didn't change one bit. Um, they were committed from the beginning until we succeeded.
And Eggers Crossing Village today has been a reality for how many years?
Well, next year we're going to have a celebration. Um, will be our 50th year. Uh, 2024 will be, and at public meetings back then when we were trying to get it, we had shouts that it wouldn't last 6 months before
Mhm.
it started deteriorating. And
Well, look, let me say this. I heard earlier on this recording that there was to be a memoir, and all of this is going to be discussed in some detail. It's going to be a New York Times bestseller, and all the residents of Lawrence Township is going to have it on their coffee table, and they're going to read between the covers too.
right,
We'll know more about the really historic uh, community building, uh, and you've been in the center of that with so many other wonderful people. And let me say too that your coming on to talk about these things just to whet our appetite is a blessing, and I'm sure that it's going to stir the interest and invite the participation of more people to be involved with us so that they know the people around them and we can educate one another about the concerns that we have. So may I just thank you for the time you've given?
well, I but I before I go, Bill, I want to let people know that Bill Howard um, was involved with us when he was way back in attending the Princeton Theological Seminary. He was a counselor at the neighborhood center at the little building, not the big building, the little building back in, was it the 60s, wasn't it, Bill?
It would have been the late 60s,
Yeah,
early
early 70s.
early 70s. Yeah.
So Bill has traveled around the world and got his doctorate and uh, been the pastor of a large church, beautiful church in Newark. And now he's back here in our community, giving back to us. So I want to thank you too, Bill, for what you have accomplished since we first met back way back then. And now you're right here again, uh, doing your thing, which is a blessing.
Well, Fred, I'm persuaded that having been all those places, I have noticed how local engagement has suffered. We're big on media. Uh, our political campaigns have gotten crazy expensive. People wanting to run for office have to rely on dark money to get elected because local networks have faded away.
Right,
And more people who understand what's going on in the world know that engagement at the local level is so vital. This is why I'm excited, and my wife can tell this because of my engagement with the group. Um, I'm excited about discovering the talent. Lawrence is blessed with a lot of talented people. You see that. And
right,
we put our heads together, as you say, we can give examples to other communities and we can learn
hmm
from other communities. And we've already had some experience of interaction with groups from different municipalities. I think we have to continue to grow this. But our real claim to fame is what we're doing right where we live and pay taxes.
right, right.
And I think you are our model for this. We are blessed to have you as a member of the steering committee and as a person who brings critical ideas to the table. And I hope that as we go forward, especially as we talk about this master plan that's about to kick off here, you'll come back and talk a little bit more about where things are headed in that regard.
Be glad to.
Okay. And until we meet, I look forward to seeing you again.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. All the best, brother.
Right.